It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump. Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark goes 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Over the one.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge. I believe this is going to be our finest round.
Just when I think you said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it,
I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Time to slip and slide your way home on a Wednesday. Hopefully that is not the case, but you do have to be kind of careful because there's some slick spots. Most of the main roads, not too bad, but some of the side streets, some of the parking lots, some of the sidewalks, they're a bit slick out there with the freezing rain, and we've got some snow coming for a little bit later. Hey, we're glad to take you through for the next 2 hours with your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6, the Sports Rush. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy, and you're connected on the Parkview Sports Medicine text line 260-447-8500. Game day. What am I doing here? I feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah, not in Youngstown, Ohio, are you?
Oh, it's going to be painful. It is going to be painful sitting back and trying to watch a game. And, when you're calling the game, at least you're somewhat isolated from the emotions of the highs and lows of a basketball game. Don't have that luxury when you're watching it.
No.
And
you have to go through it all.
It gets pretty emotional when you're, I know what the average fan has to endure.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to become a fan. And that means fanatic.
Right. And so in some ways, it may make me a better broadcaster because now I can relate to the fan by experiencing what they're experiencing as they're watching Mastodons basketball. And, of course, when you watch, you listen to me, you watch the TV or the computer screen, or you just listen. But you never watch the game without our audio. So tonight, it's John Nolan who will provide your play-by-play over the broadcast on ESPN Plus of the Mastodons at Youngstown State. And it is a huge game with major implications on the standings in the Horizon League because you've got the Purdue-Fort Wayne Mastodons currently in second, and you've got Youngstown State and Robert Morris tied for third, and there's only a game that separates them. So the Mastodons could go from second to fourth. You don't know what's going to happen tonight. Who's Robert Morris play? I can't remember now.
I'm pulling it up here for you right now.
But with I think Robert Morris has action tonight.
They have Cleveland State.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. But it's a big one tonight. 6:30 start, 6:15 pregame right here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. But the biggest story tonight probably right now is the weather. Everybody's concerned at work. What's it going to be like when I get out of here? You could probably tell that there is some precipitation, but I can't even call it rain. It's kind of a mist.
Yeah, it is mist. Unfortunately, a lot of that mist seems to be freezing once it gets on the ground and settling. So kind of a layer of ice on over a lot of things already. 28
degrees. There is going to be a layer of ice on your car if it's parked outside.
Yes.
And did I tell you what my wife got me for Christmas?
What'd she get?
From Boca Raton, Florida.
Yeah.
She found this item. Now, you just think about the irony in that is that in Boca Raton, Florida, where the year-round temperature is generally 50 degrees or higher, she found a ice scraper for your car that is heated.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what is that doing down there?
Yeah, I don't know.
It ended up at
I think it ended up at the TJ Maxx and ended up on their sale rack down there and she's like, I got this really cheap. I said, I bet you did. I mean, how are they going to sell it down here in Florida? And so guess what I got for Christmas? I got a heated ice scraper.
Ooh.
Best gift ever.
That's awesome.
I used it the other night, and it was one of those nights where you had a little bit of the ice with the snow on top. I can't remember what night it was. Almost pick a night over the last week or so.
No kidding.
But I took it and plugged it into my my plug
Yeah, your 12-volt little guy.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It used to be. Used to be your cigarette lighter, but it's like, no, not now.
Nope.
So I don't know what to call it. I'm stuck for words. It's like, what did they call that? But, plugged it in, and then it heats almost immediately, and I just went zing, 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 and it took the ice, the snow, it took everything right off the car. Just one quick pass. You know, some of those things that they show on TV where they're trying to sell you products and they show a demonstration, you're like, it never works
it never looks like that. Right.
Well, this actually did. It worked just like that. I mean, back and forth, just went right through the windshield on one side, and then I had to try to figure out how to make it reach to the other side, because it's got a cord. But I took it to the other side, got the other side done, and I got out of there very quickly. And so I'm prepared.
You're ready.
I come out here to do the show. When I take off at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, at 6.
I will have a quick departure because I'll be able to just take that ice right off the. But if when you're scraping your window and you're having trouble getting that ice off the windshield, and you're really scraping it, and all it's doing is kind of scratching the surface of the ice. I want you to think about this amazing gift my wife bought me for Christmas, because you might need to go find one for yourself.
This sounds like a sponsored segment, but it's not.
I should be a testimonial spokesman for the heated ice scraper. You're
convincing me.
But anyway, do be careful going home, because some of the intersections, some of the side streets, it'll kind of jump up on you. I was driving out here, and 90% of the trip, it was wet. It was not slick. I had no problem braking, no problem turning, and then I got out here into the farm country, and it's just like a sheet of ice on the road.
Yeah. Overshot the parking lot a little bit.
Braking optional at that point, because it doesn't matter. If you hit the brake or don't hit the brake, you're going to continue to go the same speed. I jammed on my brakes, my wheels stopped, my car kept rolling at about 15 miles per hour.
You missed the parking lot.
I did. I missed the parking lot, had to back up. And then I found out you did the same thing, so don't make fun of me.
Hey, I still made it in, though. I was overshooting it, but I drifted in.
You were brave, though, because where you parked is pretty close to the entrance, and I thought, man, if somebody comes while we're in here.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
They don't navigate that corner. Look out.
Might go move my car during the break.
Yeah, I moved my car way in the lot where nobody can get to it.
I might go do that during the break, but we'll see.
No, I thought, the young pup's going to learn a lesson about where he parked. I wasn't saying anything to you.
My car.
All right, so we got a big show.
We do.
Purdue, Indiana, Mastodons, Pacers, plenty of things, and even the baseball season. How about that?
The baseball season.
Yeah, we got to talk about the baseball season, because it's getting underway with spring training opening up.
Yeah.
And news around baseball as teams start to report to spring training. But last night, how about the Hoosiers surprise?
Didn't see this one.
Boilers slip up, but the Hoosiers get the win on the road at Michigan State.
Say what?
And it was quality basketball.
It was.
I mean, they showed some discipline. They showed some fortitude. They showed a little toughness against a team that's got a reputation as always being one of the tougher teams in the Big Ten. You got to be pretty pleased, at least for one night, what Indiana was able to put together and get a huge win. Now, they don't have a ton of these types of wins. You know, when you start to talk about the quadrants, whether it's the A quadrant or whether it's a quadrant 1, it depends on what ranking or analytics system you're using. They don't have a ton, 2, maybe 3 of these now on the entire season, and I think they've piled up 10 losses in those types of games. But they've still got a schedule where they can still make some moves. Now, you know, they're not doing great when you look at the national analytics. I think right now they're like 56th in the net rankings, which you've probably got to be in the top 35 or so to really be an at-large contender in the NCAA tournament. But they jumped up 5 spots with the win last night, so it's not hard to move up with some quality quad 1 wins. And, in fact, when you look right now, Oregon, they're 9th place in the Big Ten. And they are the 34th team in the net. So you have to think that you've got to get above Oregon if you want to give yourself any kind of opportunity of making the NCAA tournament. Now, we've already written Indiana off, but then they go and pull this kind of stunt and win a game we don't expect them to win at all. But, they did things that winning teams do on the road. They shot 48% from the field, so a good shooting percentage. They only had 9 turnovers. And, yes, I had to do a double take, make sure that I was looking at the right box score. 9 turnovers. Malik Renew, finally seems to have returned. 19 points, and he kind of dominated a stretch there in the game. 19 points, 12 rebounds, finished with a double-double. And Umar Ballo ended up with 14 points, 10 rebounds, also a double-double as the IU Bigs dominated the Michigan State Bigs. Of course, Galloway still a concern. It's so tough because I know there are things he brings to Indiana that are intangibles that don't show up in the box score, but at the same breath, you look at it, he's like 0 for 3 from 3.
Yeah.
9 for his last 41 from three-point land. I'm like, you know what, Trey? I don't mind you playing because, you do have things you can do well on the court, but three-point shooting, I think, has been proven it's not one of them. And don't get baited into taking these shots because you were 0 for 3 last night. You're 9 for 41 over your last 11 games. That's 22%. That's just not good enough to help your basketball team. But the one thing that was impressive with Indiana, they never got rattled by the home crowd at the Breslin Center, and they held on to the lead the entire second half. And it was not a big margin, but every time they needed a bucket to keep their cushion, which was often only 3, 4, or 5 points, they were able to get a big bucket and maintain some kind of safety cushion against Michigan State. Because it kind of felt like, as I watched that second half, at any point, if Michigan State takes the lead, Indiana's shoulders are going to slump, and it's going to be like, oh, here we go again. And, and they didn't do it. They didn't surrender it. Now, we do have to ask about the question that came up during the pregame. I don't know if you heard about this, but Mike Woodson apparently is no longer doing his pregame interview with Don Fisher. Come on, it's Fish. How do you tell the man no? To me, it's like, look, Indiana has gone to great lengths to allow you to walk out with some grace and dignity. Don't ruin it by being you-know-what.
Right. I mean, I can almost understand not wanting to talk to him post-game after a loss. I still would rather him talk to him then.
Even on the coach's show, he may feel like lame duck coach, nothing to say, fans won't be interested.
But a pregame...
And I don't like it because I feel like you got a contractual commitment to do it.
Right.
But I understand that he's probably not going to be part of the inside IU basketball. But pregame, where you supposedly are the head coach that's responsible for the scout and the preparation of your team to go out to battle, you should be able to give 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes of your time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Needed to see that. Would have appreciated that, but Don Fisher has given too much to the Hoosiers to be ignored like that.
Yeah, and and you got to realize Mike Woodson played when Don Fisher was broadcasting games, so it's not like they don't have a relationship or an existing relationship. I don't know if the relationship's all that close. I really don't know.
But they're certainly familiar with each other.
But he's a guy that you certainly owe the respect to give him 3, 4, 5 minutes before the game.
Absolutely.
He's not going to throw a zinger at you and say, okay, let's talk about Michigan State, and then say, by the way, how do you feel about the goings-on of last week? He's not going to hit you with that, right?
No, absolutely not. Taking a look at the Parkview Sports Medicine text line, which is 260-447-8500. If anybody wants to weigh in with your thoughts, somebody texted in, Malik was the difference last night, especially in the second half.
He had a stretch where they couldn't stop him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, there was a stretch, and I can't exactly give you a timestamp on it, but I think there were 3 or 4 possessions almost in sequence where they went to him, and he was able to find ways to kind of worm his way into the paint and to the basket, and they could not stop him. Ended up with layups. And, that was a big stretch because, again, Indiana had to find some kind of consistent offense to keep Michigan State from going on any kind of a run and keep them at bay on the bottom side of the scoreboard, and they were able to do it the entire night.
They certainly kept them at bay from shooting all across the field, too. I mean, I'm looking at the percentages here. They held them to 17.4% from behind the arc and only 38.2% from the field. That's I don't know how much of that was defense and how much of that was just missed shots from Michigan State, but that's quality stuff.
Yeah, well, Indiana didn't exactly shoot lights out.
Hey, 23.1, 3 of 13
They were 0
from
for
3.
3 from 3, but at least they were in the second half, but at least they were smart enough not to take more than 3.
Hey,
They were feeding the beast, Valo and Renew around the basket.
If those 3 shots aren't falling, you have to do something else, and it's nice that they can rely on their big men.
And so they finished 3 for 13 from behind the three-point line. So in the game, a grand total of 7 3-pointers, and the teams combined to go 7 for 36, which I know that's under 20%, because 7 of 35 is 20%. I know that in my head.
All of you complaining that you want 90s basketball back, here you go.
So Indiana ends up with the victory. They got out-rebounded, but not by a ton. They did give up too many offensive rebounds, still 12 offensive rebounds from Michigan State, which is usually an area where the Spartans excel.
Yeah.
And Indiana didn't let it beat them last night, but part of that is because they didn't turn the ball over, just 9 turnovers. Michigan State only turned it over 11 times, but those couple of possessions might just have been the difference in the game. 71-67, a 4-point win for the Hoosiers last night in East Lansing.
Those 2 turnovers could have led to
the 2 buckets.
There you go.
The 4 points. That's right. All right, we got to get a break in, but before we do, let's get today's top headlines. It is Adam Lundy.
Oh, you caught me off guard. No, I have headlines.
Should I have retake? Should I try take 2 on this?
I had a sound effect ready on another page, and I wasn't ready for my headlines audio, Brett.
Are you ready now?
Let's do it.
Today's top headlines with Adam Lundy.
Oh, thank you, Brett. Well, Ohio State is finalizing a deal to make veteran NFL coach Matt Patricia the school's new defensive coordinator, sources told media today. The move to bring in Patricia comes with the corresponding internal promotion of secondary coach Tim Walton to the co-defensive coordinator role, sources said. The Indiana Hoosiers and Marquette have reportedly finalized a deal to play a non-conference game in the 2025-26 season at the United Center in Chicago, according to John Rothstein. The game will reportedly be part of a multi-team event with an official announcement expected later this month. Bengals defensive captain and leading tackler Jermaine Pratt has requested a trade away from Cincinnati. The Bengals have been devoting resources to keeping their offensive core together, and Pratt was close to defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, who was fired after last season. And one more for you today. Fort Wayne FC will remain in the Valley Division of the Central Conference. USL League 2 announced today though the membership of the division has changed for the 2025 season. While the Valley Division will continue to have 6 teams, it now includes Kings Hammer FC Columbus, Lexington SC, and West Virginia United. They join 3 returning teams, the Dayton Dutch Lions, Kings Hammer FC Cincinnati, and Fort Wayne FC. And those are your top stories today, Brett.
Still coming up, Eric Dutkiewicz is going to join us in hour number 1 because of a scheduling conflict, but he will be here to talk high school basketball, not only the big Friday night of boys basketball that we've got on tap, but also the girls basketball regionals that come up this Saturday. He'll join us coming up at about 4:35. Coming up next, we'll talk Boilermaker basketball. Didn't go so well for Purdue last night in Michigan, and we'll talk about some of the details and thoughts on this one when we return. It's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Coming up later in the show, I'm going to tell you the name that most of you don't know, but he might just be the top prospect to become Indiana University's next head basketball coach. We've got that on the way. Also, we'll be talking to Scott Agnes in hour number 2. Tonight, Mastodons start a huge week with a road trip to Youngstown State. 6:30 will be the tip. 6:15 the pregame show. John Nolan on the call. Mastodons got to get their legs back. I feel like there's certain things that really stand out when a team is dragging a bit at this time of the year, because you go through a long season. Naturally, it's going to wear a little bit on your body, and you don't physically feel tired, but there's sometimes signs that show themselves that I think are indications that a team has what's called tired legs. And one of them, finishing at the rim. The ability to just explode through somebody. You just don't have that same amount of explosion. 3-point shooting, free throw shooting, and maybe even a slower first step, both offensively and defensively, being able to cut off the dribble drive penetration. But right now, the Mastodons statistically are in a bit of a funk shooting 3-pointers, and you have to wonder, could it be that they got a little bit of those tired legs? They don't have their bye until next week. So they got to get through these two games. Hopefully they find it tonight because it's been a key for the Mastodons, the three-point shooting. When they hit 35% or better in a game, they're 14-3. For the season, they're the 27th best three-point shooting team in the nation at 37.8%. But over the last 4 games, they've been almost 10 percentage points lower than that, just 27.3% in their last 4 games, although they have won 3 of those 4. But and they shot the ball well in 1 of the 4. That was the win at Milwaukee. But the Dons will need on the road with 2 good quality opponents. They're going to need that three-point shot. And so we'll see what they do tonight. But Mastodons, Youngstown State, starting at 6:30, 6:15, the pregame on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Last night, Boilermakers fall at Michigan. And in the process, they surrender the number 1 spot in the standings to the Michigan Wolverines. Remember when I said early in the season that Michigan might be my favorite to win? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was early. That was even before the Mastodons played Michigan, where I said, I think Michigan might just be the team I would pick to win the Big Ten because they've got, everything's there. They've got point guard play. They've got some shooting. A couple of the shooters come off the bench, but they do have a couple of guys that can drop in triples. And then you've got Wolf and Golden, a couple of 7-footers that kind of take care of things on the glass. There's no real piece that's missing from that roster. It's very complete. Now, the only thing that could derail a team like Michigan is if somebody gets caught in an injury, but you certainly don't wish that on them. And Dusty May's done a great job of building a roster, creating a good balanced roster with guys that, can drive from the wing, guys that can get in there and battle for a rebound that aren't 7 feet tall. Guard play. Donaldson's been wonderful for them this year. And then, of course, what Golden has done around the basket. It's been a really good year. And last night, Purdue saw it firsthand. They whooped Michigan a couple of weeks ago at Mackey Arena, but Michigan was determined to not let that happen again. And even though Purdue got off to a good start, Michigan did not let them run away and hide. They answered the early Purdue run, which gave them, I think, a 9-point lead just 4 or 5 minutes into the game. And Michigan clawed back and made a game of it. And in the second half, even though Purdue again tried to get some separation, Michigan would not let them run away and kept coming back, and eventually the perseverance paid off. Michigan gets the win. But foul trouble certainly haunted the Boilermakers last night with Trey Kaufman-Wren and Caleb First, the 2 bigs for the Boilermakers, both ultimately fouling out of this game. And I'll be honest, love Caleb First, and I am thrilled to see him out there. But he had a couple of plays last night that really hurt the Boilermakers dearly. He had 2 chances at the rim to finish. And when you're 6'10", and you get to the rim, you've got to be able to bury that ball and bottom it out. You cannot have it blocked or get off balance and miss a shot from in close. And those 2 close misses, plus he got stripped when on an entry pass down in the low block. And those 3 plays did the Boilers in a bit, because it led to the Michigan Wolverines getting the lead in the game, getting a multiple score lead in the game, and Purdue just never recovered. Purdue missed a couple of key free throws at the final minute of the game. Yeah. And Michigan wins it.
Michigan wins it, yeah. And it felt like they were just getting all the free throws late, too, to help them kind of put it away. I mean, it felt like Golden had like maybe 4 or 5 free throws with 2 minutes left or so, and there was Danny Wolf free throws with like 16 seconds left.
Although Wolf missed 2 free throws.
He did miss those 2 very late.
He gave the Boilermakers a shot at it.
Yeah.
And Braden Smith on a runner just couldn't get the 3-pointer close.
Nope. So exciting game. It came down to the wire, but Michigan able to pull away.
But Wolf was 4 for 5 at the line.
And then missed 2.
And then missed 2 free throws in the final 2-3 seconds.
Yep.
And like I said, it led to Braden Smith hurrying the ball into the front court, putting up a running 3-pointer that came up empty.
Sure did.
260-447-8500. That's how you get a hold of us, the Parkview Sports Medicine text line. It is a slippery Wednesday afternoon. We do have some mist that has kind of coated the roads.
Yeah, good way to put it.
Coated your car.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you may need to do some scraping when you get out to your car after work today. And, the main roads, they, at least an hour ago, they were primarily wet, but the side roads were getting a bit slick, and it's that black ice where it's just a glaze and you can't tell if it's wet or if it's frozen.
Yep.
And so do be careful. Give yourself a little extra braking distance, especially when you're coming up on intersections, and just be careful and take your time getting home. You've got to be fast, because in this town, even if you slow down, you're still going to get home in a reasonable amount of time. So do be safe out there on the roads this afternoon. Coming up next, we are going to talk to Eric Dutkiewicz. It's all about high school basketball when we return. It's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. A key SAC game last night as the Wayne Generals get the win over the Homestead Spartans. It was dramatic, with Preston Comer hitting a three-pointer to provide the winning margin, 63-60 over the Homestead Spartans. So Wayne stays unbeaten, trying to go back-to-back as SAC champs. And now with their perfect 7-0 record, they are 2 ahead in the loss column against the rest of the field. The only team that has a chance to make up that difference is Southside, and Wayne is at Southside this Friday. The Generals can wrap up the Summit Athletic Conference with victory at Southside. Even if they lose, Wayne would be your SAC champ if they go and beat Concordia at home in the following week. We talk high school basketball each and every week at this time. Well, not really at this time. We're on like Central Time or something, because normally it's an hour later, but we had a shift. In fact, not even on the same day. Usually it's Thursday. Today's Wednesday, but we've got things all out of whack because tomorrow we're not going to be here. We're off due to a company function. And so Eric Dutkiewicz is jumping on with us from Parkview Sports Medicine to talk all things high school basketball. What's up, Doot?
Hey, how's it going? Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, it is hump day for you. You're not used to that.
On the road on the way home tonight.
It is a dangerous day, but yeah, it's a hump day version of Eric Dutkiewicz. But we've got to talk a little bit about Wayne's victory last night. That was probably the toughest threat that they have had so far this year. But they survive, and now they're in the driver's seat with another SAC championship potentially on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they get the big win last night over Homestead, 63-60. You mentioned the Preston Comer big bucket at the end there to give it the lead. And look, Homestead had been playing very well. I mean, they come in with quite the streak, red hot there, and really in that conversation still. I mean, they had a chance to win, and that would have really made things interesting, particularly with Wayne beating Lures earlier last week. And so, but Wayne finds that way to win and continue to do so, and they're red hot too with what they've been able to do. And so it's just been fun to see. We kind of talked about it with the girls basketball getting, finishing the regular season, getting into the postseason. The boys kind of just have the rest of the way through their regular season, where some of these marquee matchups that will determine the conference races here in the last couple of weeks of the season. And we saw last night with those two big games, Wayne in Homestead, and then Southside in Lures, with the Archers knocking off Lures at Lures, and really just completely making things really fun in the SAC.
And, of course, that's the kind of Friday night we expect in the NE8, because you've got a couple of teams on top, a couple of teams just behind them, and the two teams just behind them have a chance to catch the teams at the top. And so you've got Columbia City at Leo. That's going to be our featured Parkview Sports Medicine game of the week. And we also have New Haven heading to East Noble. And to me, the Knights are maybe one of the surprise teams in the NE8 this year, perhaps in high school basketball in Northeast Indiana.
Yeah, East Noble really coming on strong the second half of the year, especially, once the calendar hit 2025, what they've been able to do. Looking at, I think, 11-2, if I'm not mistaken, 10-2. Yeah, so they started 1-5, and now they're 11-7. So it just goes to show what Brandon Durnell and that team has done. They got Quake back from injury, and he's getting back in the mold, and so they're a couple games back in the NE8. Our East Noble at 4-2, Leo 4-2. Those two top teams, Columbia City, New Haven, sitting at 5-1. New Haven with the big win last night over Huntington North to kind of knock them back another rung. But we've seen some exciting games in that conference, and I think Friday shaping up to be another big night in that conference, going a long way in deciding it, because Leo's still playing well, even though they just lost this one. East Noble 5 in a row, and Columbia City and New Haven not really taking that firm hold and keeping it out of reach. That's what makes it interesting.
Let's talk about what we've got as far as our top 5 this week. And, of course, for those that are our 4 o'clock listeners and have not heard how the top 5 works, Eric Dutkiewicz doesn't necessarily give us a season-long poll. It is more of a snapshot of the most recent games and teams that seem to be trending well over the last couple of games. And so let's go ahead and find out who seems to be at their best and give us our top 5 boys high school basketball teams, starting with number 5.
Number 5, we have Columbia City. They stayed within it. They get the big win over New Haven, handed them their first loss a couple weeks back. They picked up another one against Norwell. Out of conference, it's been a little rocky for Columbia City, but their ability to get the job done, stay in that hunt with the big game on Friday night at Leo, will give the nod to Columbia City at number 5.
That makes the next pick number 4.
Number 4, we have the Homestead Spartans.
Dude, are you making this up as we go? Because it sure seemed like you weren't quite confident in that number
4. Here's the thing. Homestead has been playing very well. They took a tough one to Wayne last night. I think they're still in that, what they've been able to do in winning some close games, and what the other teams in the SAC have done. So it really does get hard when you're cross-referencing some of these other teams and other matchups. But, like I said, Homestead, still a really good team. Just took the loss last night by 3 to a really good Wayne. But what they've been able to do as of late, I still think they're red hot. And if that game were played tonight, it may be a completely different outcome. That's how good Homestead is.
Absolutely. And Homestead's relying on some young players that will have a couple of more years at the high school level. So watch the Spartans, not just the remainder of this season, but as they continue to progress under Coach Chris Johnson. Let's get number 3.
Number 3, we have Blackhawk Christian. 5 straight again. They get a big win over Snyder last night at Kilmer Court, 71-62. They beat Wayne a couple weeks back. They beat a very good Westview team that was leading the NECC. So there again, that taking on all comers mentality for Blackhawk Christian always pays off for them. This year, no exception. Once again, finding themselves as one of the top teams in the area.
And that brings us to number 2.
Number 2, the Southside Archers. How about their big? We talked about it earlier. The big win for them over Lures at Lures on Friday night, or last night, I should say. A big one there to kind of stay there in that conversation. It's been a really good year for Southside. They got out to the hot start, kind of cooled off there for a couple weeks, but have really ramped things back up again. And J.J. Foster Sr.'s got this team playing really well, and they're going to be a tough out come postseason. I don't know if they'll be in it for the SAC, obviously, with the math now, but ultimately, Southside still playing good basketball and have done so all season long.
All right, it is the time for the drum roll, because we have got to find out who is number 1 on this week's Power Poll.
Number 1, those Wayne Generals. It's just been business as usual, exciting games. This team can really score a lot, averaging just under 70 points a game. We're doing so until probably last night, but they get that big win at Homestead to fend off any really challengers, and looks good. Southside, a big game on Friday. That's going to be huge for them, and of course Concordia as well down the stretch. But Wayne, continues. They've been the SAC champions a couple years and sectional champions. They've just found it. And this is a really good run for Wayne. And I just think it just keeps continuing. And I really like this Generals team, number one this week in the top 5.
Got to real quick just get your thoughts on some of the girls basketball regionals that come up this weekend. And I do this because I know you are a Snyder alum, and it gives us a chance to recognize that Snyder has now won 4 consecutive sectionals, and they will play a team that they opened their season with, a 2-point game that they fell to McCutcheon. But McCutcheon 23-3, Snyder 13-11, but don't count out those Panthers.
Yeah, especially this one with McCutcheon and Snyder. Neither one of these teams ranked. With the other regionals, I mean, you look at the gambit of these games, especially in 4A, with Warsaw and South Bend, Washington, and Homestead and Hamilton Southeastern. This McCutcheon-Snyder game at the 4A Marion Regional should be a good one, like you mentioned. McCutcheon beat Snyder very early on in this season. Hard to beat a team twice. Snyder's been here 4 times now, getting to the regional, won a couple, and they've changed the format a couple of times since Snyder started doing this. But, I mean, Snyder looking good. They fended off Northrop of that 15-2 run in the fourth quarter to seal that victory. And then, to avenge the loss to Northrop from the regular season, to avenge the loss from Carroll in the regular season in the semifinal and sectionals, I think they can go to Marion and avenge that loss to McCutcheon on Friday, or this coming Saturday, I should say, and win that 1-game regional and march on to semi-state.
Might be the best game in the state coming up at 7 o'clock at Marion as Homestead takes on undefeated Hamilton Southeastern. Yeah,
I mean, this is number 1 versus number 3. This could be the state championship. This could be the semi-state championship. This could be, this is going to be a fun matchup with the way that these teams scores. Hamilton Southeastern 25-0. Going to be very tough for Homestead. I mean, it is every year when you get to this point and the teams you play and the regional opponents you get assigned. And I think that probably continues for Hamilton Southeastern. But Homestead has got the horses to do it with Maya Epps and Gabby Helsum and some key players that have played all year long for them. And I think they're going to give it a best shot. I just think, Hamilton Southeastern is just, is too much 25-0, but hey, anything can happen this time of year. Homestead can be that team to knock off HSE at regionals.
Making our way quickly through Jimtown, where Eastside and Columbia City, I have to think are big favorites, but I know Eastside takes on an Andrean team that always plays a tough schedule.
Yeah, Andrean's one of those teams where, the small Catholic schools sitting at 15-11, they come in red hot through their sectional and take care of business. You can never count out an Andrean team. But I think Eastside sitting at 25-1, I think they're comfortable in this game. I think they march on there.
And
Columbia City too, I think they've got it easy. Number 5 in 4A, good draw for them in Lowell, 16-9 team. But I'll take the Eagles to win their first regional in 25 years.
The regional that takes place closest to Fort Wayne is going to be right down in Belmont, and I know that the Belmont fans were hoping that they would see their team in action, but instead it's the neighbors from Norwell as the Knights will take on, I'll call them an upstart East Noble. I think, they've got something to prove here against Norwell, and they'll hook up in the second game at Belmont. It's an all-NE8 clash for a regional title.
Yeah, an all-NE8 clash that Norwell won by 40 just 2 weeks ago on January 31st. In fact, the last night of the regular season was this matchup in Kendallville. I think it's probably going to look much the same, maybe not a 40-point spread on this one. I think it'll be a little bit closer. But I think what got East Noble to this point was the ability to kind of, stall ball, if you will, not a high-scoring affair. Norwell scores a lot, and I think they're going to prove that once again. This is their time to shine every year in the postseason. I think Norwell rolls on comfortably.
Whitko-Bremen on paper looks like a good matchup, and how about the season Whitko has had? It's almost been lost in the shuffle of some of the bigger schools, but 20-4, man, they've been really solid.
Yeah, first sectional in school history for the Whitco Wildcats, a PSM school. Congratulations to them, Coach Justin Jordan and that group that has worked so hard. I mean, they get to nearly this point a year ago at 19-4. They lose the sectional championship to eventual state champion Lures. They get it done here at number 2 Bluffton at the Tiger Den. They're 66-60 there. Now they move on to Bremen. They're playing hot, and I think both teams are playing hot. Bremen 24-2. It'll be a tough challenge for Whitco. Can they get past that emotional victory of finally getting over that hump? They got the conference hump a year ago, the sectional hump this year. I just think it might be a little bit too much. I'll go with Bremen to get the win and move on.
What's new at Parkview Sports Medicine, Doot?
Yeah, just a reminder as the winter season start wrapping up, we're coming to the end of basketball season. A good reminder for people transitioning from season to season in sports that our PSM Edge program is open year-round. Great opportunity to get involved there if you're looking for specialized, individualized training for every athlete, every sport, any level, and taking care of your body and working towards your schedule at a convenient time. Just log on to parkviewsportsmedicine.com/edge. Find out about a free consultation to see how you can get started and so that you can start earning your edge with PSM.
You've got a free Thursday coming up tomorrow, and we will catch you on Friday. Thanks, Doot.
We'll see you then.
That is Eric Dutkiewicz from Parkview Sports Medicine joining us, usually Thursdays at 5:35 to talk our high school sports, but joining us a day early. We are off tomorrow. There will not be a sports rush because we are having a company function that we will be attending, so we will not be here. But we will be back on Friday, 4 to 6, with your daily local sports fix. We got to take a time out. When we come back, I'm going to tell you the name as a potential candidate to be the next Indiana University head basketball coach that you might not have heard, and even if you did, you might not know who he is. We'll tell you, and he might just be the top candidate. But we'll talk about it when we come back. It's the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.